This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
This is ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Want to just say welcome you into the show. It is a $2 Tuesday. Still haven't figured out what we're paying $2 for. But, hey, it's a $2 Tuesday. I just like the name. It got a nice ring to it, T. So we're just going to roll with that. We want to thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. And remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Last night, I think, T, the concern level starting to rise just a little bit. I'm not all the way there, but I think I'm getting a little bit, I don't know about you, I'm getting a little bit close to that spot. We'll talk about that with the Braves and the Phillies last night. And also, the Falcons made some additions on both sides of the football. We'll talk about who will have the biggest impact for the Falcons for the 2022 season. And last but not least, and for the culture, T, you know we got to be special about this thing. My main man, The Rock, my favorite wrestler of all time, running the XFL, they have announced where they will be playing. We'll talk about all of that and for the culture. But first, the Braves lose, T, to the Phillies last night, late in the 8th inning. 3-run home run given up by A.J. Minter. When I saw that ball go out the park, as soon as I saw him hit the ball, T, I knew that exactly where that bad boy was going. It had a date with some random fan that was going to take it home a souvenir.
Right. Well, Stott had a home run, that 3-run home run. He also had a double in the game. He was the Braves killer last night. But
Right.
On the same token, it was a weird game all the way around because the 3 runs that the Braves got early were like on a wild pitch and then an error in the outfield. So you kind of were up 3-0, but it was kind of like a weird 3-0. And then, you come back and you go up 4-3, but then you let them come back. And this is
Right.
kind of that weird thing because the one thing A.J. Minter does well is he's not going to give up a home run to a lefty. And That was the first one in like maybe 200, I think it was 244 appearances that he had
Right.
not given up that home run. So even though he's been a little unsteady lately, I think his ERA is now up above 5, whereas he started the month of July right around 2 or 3. It still is a bit of an anomaly because, again, he's not done it in all that time. The Braves have not lost back-to-back games in over a month. And sometimes when you gift somebody like the Phillies gifted them in the first inning, sometimes they take it back. And that's kind of what happened last night. But I, like you, I'm a little bit concerned only because just like the Braves were 10 and a half games behind the Mets, and they caught them, who's to say that the Phillies can't catch the Braves now being just 6 games behind them? So yes,
Right.
every game counts, especially a divisional game that you're supposed to win.
Right. And that's the key right there. They are supposed to beat the Phillies. They are a better team than the Phillies right now. And I think that when you get those type of performances, from a Max Fried, he didn't have his best stuff, but he was definitely sitting guys down last night. I think he ended up with 8 strikeouts in the game. So I think that's
No
something
walks,
that
though, yeah.
no walks. That is the even more
That's
important
huge,
stat,
right?
right?
Yes, it is.
That's huge. You're keeping guys off base and you're letting your defense rest, so to speak. When you send guys home, go back to the dugout with their head tucked between the tail. I think that's the thing you kind of have to pay attention to as to how the guys performing. So it was, like you said, it was some interesting things as far as like you said, weird and how the Braves scored their first runs. Johan Camargo with the error. I was like, man, is he throwing the game? I was like, well, keep doing it. I appreciate you for that, but it's just that's the thing that's the level of concern. I guess that's where my concern comes in is how they're scoring. They're not necessarily scoring because they're just going up to the plate and just swinging away and taking advantage of their matchups against that whatever pitcher it is. But they got runs on mistakes, and that's the thing that kind of makes me get a little feeling in my gut. I was like, all right, now, like, you guys aren't doing really exactly what you're supposed to do, but it's something that you got to keep your eye on as they move
Mm-hmm.
forward and definitely try to get a win tonight. We'll talk
Yeah.
about next though. The Atlanta Hawks made a very interesting move. He's a fan favorite. We'll talk about that. But before we get there, tell the folks about Dave and what they got going on and how they have partnered with Locked On Sports Atlanta.
Yeah, so we keep it 100 here, and we've all been in a situation at some point in our lives when we were a little tight on cash. Maybe you could only afford to put a few gallons of gas in your tank, especially now, or maybe you had another baby shower to go to, or maybe you're invited to dinner and you kind of had to think before you could say yes or no. So that's where Dave can help. A friend of mine used to always say there is no stress like financial stress. Facts. So
Indeed.
Dave can help you get out of a pinch when you really need it. Now hindsight is 2020, and we can't change the past. Well, what if you could get a little help from your future self? Maybe you'd ask to borrow a little cash. Now you can with Dave. So Dave's the banking app that you can help get up to $500 for you instantly with extra cash. You can finally tackle those expenses that have been stressing you out. There's no interest, no credit check, and millions of people have already downloaded the app. So if you're in a pinch, you need extra help, download Dave and think of it as a helping hand from future you. So again, it's DAVE. Sign up for an extra cash account and get up to $500 instantly. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Instant transfer fees apply. Banking provided by Evolve, member FDIC. And remember, your future you will thank you.
No doubt about it. Don't be shy. We like I said, like T said, we keep it real on the show, and we'll definitely, if you're in a pinch, Dave has definitely got your back. And we thought the Atlanta Hawks had Sharif Cooper's back but he's no longer part of the team. T.
Right.
I'm gonna take you back to July 22nd, which is about 4 days ago.
Right.
Here's a tweet. Atlanta Hawks guard Sharif Cooper has signed his two-way qualifying offer for the 2022-23 season.
Right. Right.
Yesterday, 24 hours ago, the Atlanta Hawks have waived guard Sharif Cooper. Now, mind you, I know the point guard position is kind of loaded, but we all thought that, Sharif Cooper at least can be a guy that can relieve somebody on the back end of that rotation. If you want to get some minutes off, if Trey wants to get some minutes off, or if DeJounte Murray needs some minutes off, he can kind of step in on the back end of that rotation. But it looks like Sharif Cooper is not going to be a part of the Atlanta Hawks team in 2022 at least.
Yeah, and it's so weird because the very thing that you just mentioned, all of those things were true and accurate on July 22nd. Frank Kaminsky had already been signed to a quote-unquote prove-it deal. You already had a flooded, kind of a logjam at the 1-2, because really it's just Frank Kaminsky, Trey Young, and Sharif Cooper who are technically points, but you have a plethora of shooting guards who can play the 1 or the 2. So yeah, you got about 7 folks in the room, but you already had 7 when you made the announcement about his two-way contract. Also, you already knew what his numbers looked like. I believe 17 points per game in Summer League last year, just 4 this year. And you knew he had a thumb injury. So Jarvis, I admit I can't read the tea leaves on this one. I cannot read the tea leaves on this one, but I'm sure in the next couple of days we're going to find out more information about it. And like you said, it's really disappointing because Sharif is that guy. I had an opportunity to meet him right after draft night, and we're still cool to this day. Every time I see him, it's a hug, it's love. I had a chance to meet his family, spoke to him one-on-one, had a couple of different interviews with him, and he really looked like at the end of the G League season last year, he looked like the floor general for the Skyhawks. He was really that guy who was leading them along with the likes of Justin Tillman. But somehow it just was not translating enough in Summer League. Like I think even before that thumb injury, because I don't think he necessarily went in with the thumb injury or that it was as severe as it was towards the end of Summer League. He just still didn't quite look like he had command of that team. And to your earlier point, if you're going to relieve Trey Young, if you're going to relieve DeJounte Murray, you need to look like the guy like a Lou Williams. You need to look like a Bogdan Bogdanovic. You need to look like there won't be any fall off when you get into the game, because that's one of the things that was one of the challenges sometimes last year before the Hawks finally got on track. Whoever was coming in for Trey, when he sat for a couple minutes, literally the plus minus number, the minus number would just go up. So again, fan favorite right here from Atlanta, played right down the road in Auburn for a year. excitement around him. But now, hey, 29 other teams have an opportunity to pick him up. So we'll see what happens. But good luck to you, Reef. Great guy, and certainly comes from a basketball family. Sister Taya plays in the WNBA or played in the WNBA. So yeah, I hope he bounces back.
I'm sure he will, and I think that just to add to it and kind of put a little bow on it, I think Aaron Holiday probably was that, that backup plan. You know what I mean? Like, okay, if Sharif doesn't, if we don't see what we need to see from Sharif in Las Vegas in the summer league, which there were, he didn't quite do what they felt he should have, and was like, okay, well, we got our third point guard, so to speak, ready to roll, from a veteran standpoint, like I said, former first round pick and everything. So you definitely, and from defensively too. I think that was a piece as well that really kind of may have had put the nail in the coffin, so to speak.
Yeah, because
Cooper.
Kaminsky's offensive numbers are better than Aaron Holiday's, but to your point, Aaron Holiday is willing to play two-way and plays some pretty decent defense. And unfortunately, those numbers the math wasn't mathing for Sharif. So
no doubt about it. Holiday plays decent defense. I think Dean Pease wants to play decent defense in 2022. So there were a couple of additions that was added on the defensive side to kind of help him out with that. There are also a couple of additions on the offensive side. We'll talk about who will have the biggest impact in the 2022 season for the Atlanta Falcons. We'll talk about all that next right here on ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and T, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta.
Welcome back to ATL Day Ones. I am Tenitra. That is Jarvis. And thank you for checking us out once again today. And also, thanks for downloading this podcast wherever you get your podcasts and continuing to give us 5-star reviews. You guys have been so on point with that. And we definitely appreciate you. And you know what we also hope will be on point this coming fall season? At least some members of the Falcons team, right? So the roster is full right now. Veterans have reported today. In fact, word is Deion Jones reported a little early. Interesting. Maybe he's trying to work his way off that PUP list a little sooner rather than later. But yeah, the veterans are back in full effect in Flowery Branch. And of course, everything really kicks off with both the rookies who came in last week, veterans who come in this week, starting on Friday. So training camp starts on Friday. Got a couple weeks under your belt before they head to Detroit for their first preseason game on August 12th. So we've been looking at this team, Jarvis, off-season, watching the moves that were made on both sides of the ball. But now it's like the rubber is going to hit the road because some pads are going to be on. You may have some joint practices. You already know from everything Arthur Smith has indicated that veterans are going to get more playing time in the preseason. And I think that's because they want to see who has mastered Dean Pease's defense. Let's just start right there because that's going to be one critical piece. And they need to see who is ultimately going to be under center to start game one against the Saints. So let's talk first about the defensive side of the ball, right? Because you had a lot of veterans added to the defensive side of the ball to give Dean Pease a little bit more to work with so that he can operate his defense at way more than that 60% he operated it at last year.
Yeah.
So
you want to be a professional defensive coordinator. Like,
exactly,
you don't want to be him spoon feeding grown men. You know what I mean? Right. So yeah, definitely.
So that when you think about that to me then means that he is looking for some veterans to make some serious impact. So when you think about some of those off-season moves, or even some players who've been there a couple of years, so it might be young veterans or maybe older veterans, who do you need to see? Who has the most potential to make the biggest impact?
You know what? The first guy that comes to mind for me has to be Casey Hayward, because when you think about the deficiencies of the defense last year, we're just gonna call him FM, not radio, but his initials are F and M. I'm not gonna say his name on the show. I refuse to. I'm not gonna do that because he's bringing up sore wounds. So it was just really bad over there. Just to keep it, to be quite frank, when you think about the type of play that AJ Terrell was playing on his side, and basically where it forced teams. And not only there was a deficiency back on the backside, But AJ Terrell forced that too in a lot of different scenarios, and that, I think that kind of spoke to his rating.
Yes.
I don't always subscribe fully to PFF grades, but I think that if you're ranked behind only one person in
Yes.
the NFL in that category, I think you've done a pretty good job. And that guy is Jalen Ramsey, and that's,
Yeah.
in my eyes, the best cornerback in the league. In my
Yes.
eyes, when you're talking about being able to follow man around, zone coverage, press, whatever you want to do, he can get down with it. So I think
Indeed.
that with Casey Hayward being brought in to the fold, you got a veteran that actually can play.
Yeah.
And I think and I think just him being solid, all he has to do is pretty much stay healthy in
Yeah.
order to have a big, probably one of the biggest impacts on the team, because that's going to help a lot of people, right? It's going to help AJ Terrell. Essentially, force teams is, hey, you know what? We can't just go backside. We're gonna have to come over his side at some point, and then that's going to eventually possibly lead to some turnovers, and him
Yes.
getting more interceptions. And then if you can hold up long enough, Casey Hayward can stay healthy and be the guy that he's been known to be. He came into the league to be. That's going to help out the defensive front as well. That's going to help them be able to get to the quarterback a little bit more.
Yes.
Have that quarterback pat that ball for one more second so those guys can get home. So I think that, the first person comes to mind, because defense was just terrible last year. It was bad. It was really bad. And I think that if you can fix that backside corner, which I believe they will, like I said, if Casey Hayward stays healthy, that's I feel that's exactly where they'll be able to go. From a impact standpoint, Casey Hayward is going to be that guy.
And just to add to that, whether he's hands in the dirt or not, I think Lorenzo Carter might be something special, like really giving Dean Pease somebody to work with who is literally going to be a threat and a fear in that linebacker core, right? So I feel like with Lorenzo Carter, I think he gives Dean Pease the versatility that he was looking for, that he just did not get anywhere on his defensive front other than Grady Jarrett, if we're being honest about it, especially once Grady really got a hold of that particular offense or defense. The other thing I will say is this, and I'm going to call him a young veteran, because we're kind of talking about those guys who are like 5 years and older. But if we had to look at a younger veteran, I got my eye on Marlon Davidson. Like, this is the year you have got to make a big impact,
got no
because we're
choice.
now going into year 3. And I know that makes you, a young veteran, if you will, but he's kind of my honorable mention for somebody who needs to make a big impact, not just for this team, but for himself. And when you speak about big impacts, you know how you can make a big impact? If you follow our partners, BetOnline. Right, Jarvis?
BetOnline.net is the place where you need to be, because, as we get ready to get started with training camp, practice, that means preseason games. You can practice at betonline.net, because it is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. It is the fastest and easy way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including the specialties, right? The MMA, the boxing, and the golf. The live. Everybody making all these noise about live golf. Go over here and place a bet. Check them out. I'm sure there's some good numbers you can get, some good bets, and then guess what? They have all the information that you need to make the best choice. Head to the website today to use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. Bet Online is where the game starts. Go there right now.
And where the Falcons game starts on offense is with Dave Ragone and Arthur Smith. They have themselves a few more toys to work with. Now, granted, they got a lot of those toys in this 2022 draft, but they also got some toys, some shiny new things in the offseason. So we really don't talk a lot about some of those veterans low key on that offensive side who can make an impact, and rightfully so. It's just what you said. The defense was so bad last year that all you can do is look at them and be optimistic about who they added in free agency. But there could be some veterans on the offensive side who could make a difference as well. And as we talked about, giving Dean Pease the opportunity to run his defense in full effect, giving Arthur Smith and Dave Ragone the opportunity as well to really expand their playbook. So with that in mind, who would you like to see as a veteran make that impact on offense?
The first person that I have to go with, because I thought about a guy like Jermaine Ifedi, right? We talked
You already know
about
that's my guy.
yeah. I know that's where you're going, so I ain't
You
gonna.
already know, right?
I'm gonna let you have. I'm
You're
gonna let you
going the
have
other
that
way.
one. So I'm gonna have to go with Brian Edwards.
Yes.
Brian,
Yeah,
the
he
guy
was
they
my
traded
number
for the
two.
Raiders. Yeah,
Yes.
traded for the
Agreed,
Raiders.
Jarvis.
I think he's gonna be a guy who can work in that slot, because that is
Yes.
going to be a nice trio of wide receivers, like
Mm-hmm.
literally tree, with an emphasis
Mm-hmm.
on tree. Talking
Yes.
about Drake London, Kyle Pitts being able to line up outside and inside and put his
Mm-hmm.
hand down in the dirt, connected to the line
Yes.
as well. And so when you think about, and I think that, Edwards is a guy that the Falcons specifically sought out because they know exactly what they need. They know
Mm-hmm.
exactly what they need in a wide receiver, and because we
Yes.
already know what the mold is, they
Mm-hmm.
like those big guys, those rangy guys. Those guys can take advantage of those smaller DBs that might
Mm-hmm.
be lining up in front of them each and every
Yes.
Sunday. So I think Brian Edwards is a guy that potentially could be that guy to have a little breakout season, because one of his former
Yeah.
teammates was just speaking glowingly, and then Darren
Mm-hmm.
Waller, he
Yes.
talked about how Edwards is a guy that needs another shot, needs another
Mm-hmm.
opportunity, because
Yes.
when you go somewhere, and Waller understands that, because he was originally
Mm-hmm.
drafted by the Ravens, and he went
Yes.
to the Raiders and became an absolute baller.
Yeah.
Of course, for some off the field stuff, but you never know what guys go through. And like I said,
Mm-hmm.
when you get an opportunity with another team, guys get that feeling of a fresh start. So I
Yeah.
think Edwards is gonna, for those couple of reasons, I think that he'll be a guy that you can look towards to have a pretty good season.
Yeah, I can't believe the Falcons got him for what? Basically nothing, a sixth round pick. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
like, I really believe he's going to be a steal. I truly believe he is going to be a steal. And like you said, you know who I have my eye on. I'm probably just going to stand there wherever the O line is every single day in training camp that I go. And then every
Right.
preseason game, I'm
Be
going to
there.
rewind the tape when I'm not physically there and just watch and see what is going on that
Hmm.
right side, because Chris Lindstrom deserves help. He deserves better for all of the great play that he has given the Falcons since he was drafted. He deserves better. Now, Caleb McGarry has taken some steps. We know that. And so I don't want to minimize what he's tried to do in the offseason to get his body right and hopefully his mind right and that sort of thing. However, I think that, and maybe when you have somebody like a Jermaine Ifedi kind of breathing down your back, maybe that will get you to step up your game. But he's somebody I'm looking at. And then, Jarvis, I will go in a different direction in terms of not so much somebody that the Falcons went out and got, but someone that they actually already have who made a huge impact last season, probably saved them on offense, to be honest with you. And that's Cordero Patterson. He
Mm.
also showed up early this morning, ready to rock and roll. And as long as his body shows up, again, the versatility that he brings, just to be able to be a bruising back, but then he'll catch the ball. He's a great pass catcher. And every now and again, if Marquise needs to put him in some special team situations, he can do that for him as well. So he's one of those veterans. Granted, he's coming back for us, but I think you would agree with me as well. Grady Jarrett is another veteran who, yes, he's coming back, but I sure expect him to be one of those guys who makes a big impact, if not the biggest impact. So, speaking of impacts, if you will, the XFL is trying to make an impact and make some noise. So, when we come back, we'll tell you exactly where they're going to make noise, maybe next season on For the Culture.
Final segment of ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. We want to say thank you for rocking with us throughout the entire show. You guys have been giving us amazing feedback, because we're up over 2,600 subscribers, on our way to 3,000. Go ahead and get our Andre 3000 award. Yeah, we pushing for that. That's what we get. That's what we speak it into existence on this show. T, tell them that's how we get down. But this is For the Culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, and the culture, and sometimes wherever the hell we won't talk about it. That's just how we get down. That's what we do. T, they have announced, first of all, let me say this. I love The Rock. That's my guy. Like, I used to even do the people's eyebrow. That was my whole thing back in school and everything, because I watch wrestling. But now he and his ex-wife, they have partnered together with the XFL, purchased the XFL,
Mhm.
and they have announced all of the cities. So it seems like they are they have fallen in love with Texas. So you got Arlington, Houston, San
Mm-hmm.
Antonio. There's
Mm-hmm.
3 cities right there in one state. You know, Texas, everything is big in Texas, so they took that
Mm-hmm.
took that to heart, right? You got
Yeah.
Las Vegas, man, wow, Orlando, Seattle, Washington D.C., and
Mm-hmm.
St. Louis. That I'm super excited about that because you know the way the Rams left out of there,
Yeah.
those people need some little kickback for what happened to them when they losing their team. So those are the cities in the XFL.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question is, are people going to watch?
Right. Which is, and also are people going to attend those games, which is
Yep,
why, for
that's
me,
important too.
Las Vegas and Houston were head scratchers because Las Vegas is still in the process of embracing the Raiders and really getting that franchise off the ground as a legitimate football franchise in Vegas.
Right.
So I don't understand why you would try to go into that market. I feel like that's going to be oversaturated because I feel like once the XFL actually rolls out this particular roster of teams in 2023, that'll by that time the Raiders are going to be ensconced in
Mm-hmm.
the Vegas scene. So I don't quite understand that move. Same thing with Houston. Now, don't get me wrong. Houston is not exactly Texans country. A lot of those Oilers fans, once they left and they chose another team, they did not turn back. So a lot of those fans actually became Saints fans. And they didn't turn back when the Texans arrived, right?
Right.
But
Right.
there are enough Texans fans in the city of Houston for me to still scratch my head on that one and say, nah, I really don't get that. Now, the rest of them, I think you make a great point. When you think about Arlington well, Arlington, I'm sorry, that's a head scratcher for me too. I
Yeah.
mean, really?
Yeah.
Like the Cowboys, I mean, why would you park yourself in a city where they are? Like, I don't quite understand that unless your rationale is that football fans in the Dallas Metroplex are so starved for football that they'll watch you in the off season. Maybe that's your plan. But I don't know. That one to me is really questionable because it's Cowboys or nothing. But I do like
Right.
San Antonio. They've been starving for a football team because they've had basketball as their only sport, professional sport there for forever.
Right.
DC Metro, I mean, they're saturated with teams anyway, but technically speaking, you've got the whole DMV space. So if you're truly in the DC, like in the district, you'll be the only team in the district because real
Right.
talk,
Yeah.
the Commanders play in Virginia and the Ravens play in Maryland. So maybe you'll be able to get a little
You know,
piece of the
some
action
maybe.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might get something. And, Seattle, well, you might be able to get them because their team's going to suck this year. So you might be
Yeah.
able to get some
Yeah.
fans off that.
You might get some crossover there.
Yeah, fans from that. And I do think St. Louis, yeah, I really like that one as well. I'm like, they actually were decently, I won't say great, because that is still a Cardinals. That city still starts and stops with the Cardinals. That's still a Major League Baseball city all day, every day. However, there still was a contingent of fans that when the Rams left were like, dang, now all we have is the Cardinals because they don't have a professional basketball team. So I think
Right.
that'll be kind of cool for them to get that back. Because I know on the flip side of that, Jarvis, we in New Orleans, we did not have an NBA team for decades until we got a team franchise back, and we have yet to get a Major League Baseball team. So
Mm-hmm.
you feel it sometimes when you don't have that pro team, you feel some type of way. So hey, kudos to you, St. Louis.
No doubt about it. So I think that's the thing that you think about whether or not this league is going to be successful. I think
Yeah.
about The Rock, right? Like because the business model is to what he's been kind of pumping like the
Mhm.
54th man, right? Like
Yes.
he was just good enough to be the 54th man, never able to make a roster. And I love how he's
Mhm.
embracing that publicly
Yeah.
because I think that'll kind of be able to get some guys who might not necessarily able to stick around, maybe on a practice
Mhm.
squad or something like that. But
True. True.
instead of trying to make a 53 man roster, let me go
Mhm.
to the XFL,
Yeah.
get some film under my belt, and then try to make that leap to the NFL. And I think
Mhm.
that's the type of player you need to go after because
Yeah.
those may be some guys that were really big college football stars
True.
and didn't necessarily make the cut. And I think
Mhm.
that if you can figure out what your target market is, he's done that. Your target demographic, that is, He's figured that out, and I think
Yes.
that the passion that he brings for being one of those guys or being
Hmm.
in their shoes, I think he has the opportunity to be successful.
Hmm.
But speaking of success, the Chicago Bears are trying to be successful
Yeah.
on the field, but there may be some. They got some maybe have some opportunities to make some changes to Soldier Field. We'll talk about that. But first, T, tell the folks about Coffee AM.
I will tell them. So I had a friend over last night, right? Hadn't seen her in
Mm-hmm.
a couple months, and she is a part of our educational school system here, secondary education, if you will, and primary education. So anyway, she of course was like, wow, I don't know if I'm ready to get back to school. The early mornings, I've had the whole summer off, and now got to get back to early mornings. And I was like, you know what? I got a little gift for you to
I said,
get your
go ahead.
morning started right.
Mm,
So I
yes.
gave her some coffee AM to go with her to start school next week, right? Because listen, your kids, they're a little different. So she's going to need something to deal with your kids.
That's a
And
good way to
coffee
put it.
AM, right? So coffee AM, would a better way for her to really get herself jump started for the new school year than with something that is produced right here in her backyard. Yes, the best
Hmm.
small batch roast company in this nation. Now, when you think about it, we say it because it's fresh. So when she opens that bag, and she might have even opened it this morning, quite honestly, but when she
Ooh,
opens that
yes,
bag,
Lord.
that's going to be fresh coffee for her because, again, when it's shipped the same day, close to it, you at least know you're going to get a free, fresh product. Then, Coffee AM only roast, current crop, specialty grade, organic, fair trade, direct trade, whatever blend you want, you can get it with them. And you always want to support local businesses. So you go to coffeeam.com/ locked on today. Take a look at that full menu of coffees, my favorites, teas, and gift sets, and choose one for yourself, or like I did, choose one for a friend. Again, that's coffeeam.com/ locked on. If you use the product code locked on for your first order, you will get 15% off of this good product that is with the best small batch coffee roaster in America. Get you some.
Speaking of product, the Chicago Bears are trying to put out a good product on the field. They have Justin Fields trying to figure his life out up there, but they're trying to figure some things out off the field. T.
Yeah.
Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot revealed
Hmm.
three proposals on yesterday for renovations to Soldier Field to try
Yeah.
to keep the Bears in the city, right? Because everybody trying to
Hmm.
move to the suburbs.
Yes.
The Falcons. Thankfully, the Falcons haven't done that,
I
but
know that was
everybody,
the move.
yeah, exactly. That was a big move. So, at the center of the proposal is the construction of a dome stadium, which
Hmm.
could cost anywhere from $900 million to $2.2 billion.
Yeah.
Do you, what do you think about a domed Soldier Field?
Bring it. Bring it. I mean,
Okay.
because when I look at what the Minnesota Vikings dome is unreal. I mean, it is
Yeah, crazy.
beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was able to go up there, and you could see when I was in Minnesota a couple of years ago, they were finishing. So, it was
Hmm.
in the finishing stages. So you could actually see inside of the dome, riding by on the tram. Absolutely beautiful. And I know, even though Detroit never puts a good product on the field, having
Right.
one of the reasons they were actually
Bless him.
able to get, bless their hearts, one of the reasons they were able to get that Super Bowl all those years ago when it had to be relocated there was because they play inside, they play indoors. And yeah, football is a cold weather sport, but for the Super Bowl, you don't want that thing out there in 5-degree weather. So, and
Right.
if you've ever been to Soldier Field, it's beautiful. It's on the water. That's a beautiful scene, if you will. However, it looks like something that is a little bit antiquated. Yes, it's nostalgic, but an upgrade probably wouldn't hurt. But man, I don't know because Chicagoans might be like, Shh, this might hit our pockets really, really hard. And speaking of something that we hope will hit hard, that's hitting hard with John Chuckery all day, every day. You should check him out. Check out A to Z with Mark Zeno because just like we will be talking tomorrow, hopefully, about a dub from the Braves with Spencer Strider taking the mound, those guys are going to give you their reactions as well. And we're going to talk a little bit of, we'll say, Falcons pre-training camp as those veterans are reporting in today. So for Jarvis,
Hmm.
I'm Tenitra. Thanks again for stopping by, and we hope to see you guys tomorrow.
Y'all come back now, you hear?